Guys, I need to get this off my chest before I lose my mind. I've lied to my wife 217 times. Not in a forgot to take out the trash way, real lies. The kind that live in your ribs and twist when you breathe. And for 15 years, I got away with it. Until I didn't. I'm in my early 40s, white-collar job. It's security analyst at a mid-sized firm. I wear the same tired navy suit most days, the fabric just a little too tight around the elbows, with a faint smell of dry cleaner's soap and reheated coffee. The kind of smell that clings to your collar after a long day. My wife, Linda, is wonderful. Smart, sharp-witted, always notices the little things. The way I switch brands of toothpaste or forget to water the plants. She's the center of my life, or at least that's what I tell myself. But 15 years ago, I stepped off the edge of that life. It started small. A conference, a work trip, a moment of weakness that spiraled into something I barely recognized. It was the kind of thing that creeps up on you when you're too tired to think straight. The conference was in a city I barely knew, in a bland hotel with beige carpeting that smelled faintly of stale cigarettes and old sweat. I was surrounded by other it folks pretending to be smarter than they were, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing above us like an annoying constant reminder of our mundane realities. I remember the stale coffee smell in the break room, and the way Claire, a coworker with a laugh that sounded like a secret you weren't supposed to know, leaned into the conversation. We slipped away from the group under the pretense of checking server logs. That was my first lie, and maybe the easiest. I told Linda I'd be at a networking dinner, but instead, Claire and I sat in a dimly lit corner of the hotel bar, her wool jacket soft and warm against the cold December air. I was nervous, my hands shaking as I hid my burner phone in the pocket of my jacket. That burner phone was my lifeline to deception. I bought it from a kiosk downtown, a plain black device with no apps, just calls and texts. I carried it everywhere, tucked away in the glove compartment, in the lining of my suitcase, a secret lifeline I never let slip. I deleted my browser history religiously, used incognito mode, cleared caches. I even kept a fake calendar full of server maintenance and emergencies to cover for my absences. The night we planned to meet at a cheap motel was a mess of nerves. My palms were sweaty on the steering wheel, my wedding ring scraping against the leather with every twist and turn. The rain pattered against the windshield in uneven drips, blurring the yellow motel sign into a smeared smear of light. Just as I pulled into the lot, my phone rang. It was Linda. "I was about to call your office," she said, voice tired but firm. "The server crashed." My heart skipped a beat. I glanced at the burner phone, then at the motel room keys. I had to think fast. "I'm already on it," I lied smoothly. "The crash is serious, but I'm fixing it." I heard her sigh, a mix of relief and exhaustion. She trusted me. It was the first time I realized how fragile that trust was, like a thin glass thread stretched too tight. In that motel room, the wallpaper was a tired floral print, faded and smelling faintly like mothballs and regret. We held hands once, just once, under the flimsy table. It was electric and terrifying. I told myself, it's not cheating if I still love her, right? That phrase became a mantra, a dull blade that numbed the guilt. Driving home through the rain, the windshield wipers ticking in a steady rhythm, I felt the weight of the night settle over me. Linda always left the porch light on when I was late, even if I didn't deserve it. The soft yellow glow spilling onto the wet driveway was a reminder of what I was risking. Her trust, our life. But I kept the lie going. I convinced myself this was a one-time thing, a slip, a mistake I could bury and forget. But like most lies, it didn't stay buried for long. Alright, so by 2010, I'd become something of a professional liar. I cycled through a few affairs, a barista named Sophie, a neighbor called Carla, and a client from a gallery opening. Each one was a different flavor of risk, and I got better at hiding it. It's weird how the small details stick with you. Like Sophie, she worked at this tiny coffee shop near my office, the kind with exposed brick walls and indie music playing softly in the background. The air was thick with the smell of vanilla and cinnamon, mixed with the bitter bite of freshly ground espresso beans. Her hair was always pulled back messy, with loose strands falling over her glasses, and she had this nervous laugh that sounded like a secret you weren't supposed to share. Our meetings were always rushed, stolen moments during my supposed lunch breaks. I'd slide my burner phone into my jacket pocket and pretend to text a colleague, but really, I was arranging where to meet next. Deleting the texts right after, my fingers trembling as I hit delete and then clear history. The office parking lot smelled like stale exhaust and wet asphalt, the faint hum of engines starting and stopping in the cold morning air. Meanwhile, Linda was starting therapy. She said it was for anxiety. At first, I thought it was because of me, my long hours, the odd disappearances. Paranoia started gnawing at me. I found myself watching her too closely, noticing the way her eyes flickered when I took a late call or the small sighs she let out when I was distracted. To keep my story straight, I started planting fake evidence. Once, I left my jacket at a friend's house, Mark, who lived a few blocks over. I told Linda I'd been there after work, even called Mark to confirm. She believed it. The jacket smelled faintly of Mark's cologne, a cheap musky scent that clashed horribly with the cotton fabric. Then came the day my daughter, Emma, found the burner phone. It was tucked behind the couch cushions, the small black device nearly invisible against the beige upholstery. She looked up at me, eyes wide. I panicked, saying it was for work security, something it people do nowadays. She looked unsure but nodded. I wanted to scream, but I smiled and said, "It's just a tool, nothing more." One night, I came home to find Linda crying. I thought it was because of me, but no. She told me about her father's debt, a secret she'd been carrying alone. It hit me like a punch to the gut. Suddenly, my suspicions felt ridiculous. She wasn't paranoid about me. She was drowning in her own storm. But that didn't stop the lies. It just added weight to them. The safe affair, Sophie, started to unravel in the most mundane way. One day, she recognized Linda at the grocery store. They exchanged polite hellos, but I could see the flicker of recognition in Sophie's eyes when she looked at me later. That moment shattered my illusion of control. Despite all the deception, I still convinced myself the lies were necessary. I skipped Emma's school recital one night because of a dinner with Carla. The smell of the cheap takeout I ordered later mixed with the bitter taste of regret. I told myself I was doing it for the family, that the lies were harmless. But every night, I'd end up in a gas station bathroom, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, my hands shaking as I cried alone. There were days I wanted to stop, really stop, but the thread had gotten too tangled. Every lie required another lie. Every close call felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire. And still, Linda carried on, trusting me even when I didn't deserve it. By 2014, I'd become a master at compartmentalizing. The lies weren't just words anymore. They were habits. A language I spoke fluently, but one that made me feel like a stranger in my own life. I ended things with Carla, or so I thought. She wasn't ready to let go. One night, my phone buzzed while I was at home. I glanced at the screen, heart pounding. A text from Carla sent to Linda's number. My throat tightened. I deleted it before Linda could see. I lied again, this time blaming a spam bot, something automatic and mindless. She didn't ask more questions, but I knew the seed of doubt had been planted. Linda's 40th birthday was coming up. I wanted to make it special, to cover the cracks with something shiny and perfect. So I bought her a necklace, the same one Carla had worn during one of our meetings. It was stupid, I know. When Linda noticed, she said it was thoughtful, but there was a flicker in her eyes. Doubt? Confusion? Maybe both. That night, sitting alone in my car, I smelled the stale scent of cheap fast food coffee and felt the ring scraping softly against the steering wheel leather. I asked myself, why does lying feel easier than truth? It was a question I didn't have an answer for. Our daughter, Emma, was growing up surrounded by the fallout. I missed parent-teacher meetings, family dinners, birthdays. The lies cost me more than I was willing to admit. Linda was quieter now. Not angry or confrontational, just distant, like a shadow slipping through my life. One trip was the closest I came to disaster. Linda had planned a weekend getaway for her 40th, something she deserved. But I had a rendezvous lined up with Sophie. I juggled schedules, scrambled plans, and lied my way through frantic calls. The smell of motel coffee that morning was bitter, like the knot tightening in my stomach. I bought Sophie a small gift, a scarf with a soft, worn texture that reminded me of nothing and everything. Later, Linda found a similar scarf at a store window and mentioned it casually. The coincidences piled up, and I felt trapped. I started avoiding my own reflection. In the mirror, I saw a man hollowed out by secrets, staring back with tired eyes. It was a cold, rainy evening in late 2017, when my entire web of lies started to unravel faster than I could keep up. My car, an aging sedan that had seen better days, decided to die on me right in the middle of a remote stretch of road where the only sound was the rhythmic patter of rain against the cracked windshield and the faint hum of distant traffic. I'd arranged to meet Sophie, my safe mistress, or so I thought, at a diner a few miles down. The kind of place with flickering neon signs and the lingering smell of fried food soaked into the vinyl booths. I was 20 minutes late because the car sputtered to a stop just as I pulled off the highway. Frantically, I dialed Sophie on my burner phone, the plastic slick and cold in my palm. "Hey, I'm stranded. Can you come get me?" I said, trying to keep my voice steady despite the pounding in my chest. While waiting, I spotted headlights approaching from behind, a familiar car. It was Linda. Of all the things I feared, this was the worst. Her car rolled up beside mine, the tires hissing on the wet pavement. She looked at me with those sharp eyes that could cut through steel. Before I could say anything, Sophie pulled up too, smiling like this was the most normal thing in the world. The three of us stood there, the rain soaking through my coat, the cold seeping into my bones. I had less than a second to think. "She's a stranded hitchhiker," I blurted out, gesturing vaguely toward Sophie. Linda's eyes narrowed, but she said nothing. That night, the tension was so thick in the car you could have cut it with a knife. I watched Linda's heels click against the hardwood floor when we got home, a sound that used to bring me comfort, now feeling like a metronome ticking down to an end. A week later, Linda handed me a small box. Inside was a GPS tracker. "For safety," she said, voice calm but firm. I was horrified. This was the last thing I wanted. So I started faking car troubles weekly: flat tires, dead batteries, mysterious engine noises. The smell of burnt oil and rubber became the backdrop to my paranoia. What I didn't know, the GPS was never active. Linda never really needed to track me. She wanted me to feel watched, to live with the weight of suspicion I had placed on her all those years. Then came the social media post from Sophie, a vague, bitter note about married men who lie and break promises. I saw it late one night, the glow of the phone screen harsh in the dark bedroom. The post didn't mention names, but it was enough. Linda's withdrawal deepened. No fights, just silence. The house filled with the sound of her off-key humming while cooking, the clink of dishes, and the click-click of her heels on the hardwood, all reminders of what I was losing. I realized then that the lies I told to protect myself were suffocating her and myself. After 15 years of lies, of juggling secret lives like some clumsy circus act, I finally ended it. Every affair, every hidden phone, every excuse. The weight lifted, only a little, because some scars don't fade overnight. But here's the kicker. Linda knew. She knew everything. Not all at once, but in pieces, bits and fragments she chose to hold close rather than throw back in my face. She stayed, not because she was naive or weak, but because of the life we'd built. Our daughter, our memories, our fragile hope. Therapy was brutal and honest. We dug into every hurt, every fear, every quiet resentment. I learned something important. My so-called love for others wasn't love at all. It was loneliness, masquerading as excitement, a desperate craving for connection that I was too scared to ask for at home. Now, I find myself cherishing the mundane things about Linda. How she hums off-key while cooking dinner, the soft worn fabric of her favorite sweater, the way she folds laundry with slow, deliberate movements, lost in thought. The way her eyes soften when she looks at me, not with perfect trust, but with cautious hope. Last night, I held the burner phone in my hand one last time. The cold plastic felt heavier than I remembered. I deleted every contact, every message, and then I tossed it into the trash. Some threads, once frayed, can still be woven back, if you're willing to do the work. Linda hasn't forgiven me completely. Maybe she never will. But she's here, sitting beside me, steady and real. Turns out the greatest risk wasn't getting caught, it was admitting I needed saving.